Hi soulmates, you're welcome back to Eleganza TV. On today's video, I will share with you how to cut and sew this simple dress with a keyhole neckline and a Basque gather skirt. Now, the making of this dress is a quick and easy tutorial, and it is also beginners friendly. So if this is something you're interested in, then you have to keep on watching, and also don't forget to subscribe if you're yet to subscribe to the channel. So without further ado, let's get on to the making of the dress. So I'm starting with the materials that will be needed in making the dress. I have 3 yards of crepe fabric, matching zipper, and pattern paper to cut for the upper part and also for the skirt. You can actually cut directly on your fabric if you choose to. So guys, to start drafting the pattern, I ruled a straight line on the top of my pattern paper to make all my lines straight. And then from that starting line, I went ahead to measure the half length of 17 inches in this case. So just go ahead to measure your half length on your pattern or on your fabric and then rule a straight line just as you see me doing. So guys, the next thing I did was to measure my shoulder divided by 2 on the starting line, and then I came down by 1 inch for shoulder slant. And then for the neck wideness, I made use of 3.5 inches. Then I came down by 3.5 inches as well for the neck depth. So next thing, I'll be connecting the curve line for the neck and then also rule a straight line for my shoulder slant. So guys, having done that, I came down by 8 inches from my shoulder slant, and that is going to be my chest line. So I went ahead to rule a straight line, and then after doing that, I'll also be measuring my shoulder divided by 2 on that point. So guys, before proceeding, I'll label all the pattern lines for easy reference. So I labeled my shoulder, my chest line, and my half length. Then on my chest line, I said I was going to mark my shoulder divided by 2, and then after doing that, I'll rule a straight line to my shoulder slant like so. Then the next thing I will do is to get the midpoint of that line and mark. And then also on that midpoint, I'll be going in by 0.5 inch. And then for the chest line, I went ahead to mark my round bust divided by 4. So the 3 points that we have right here, I'll be connecting them together to form my armhole curve. So guys, having done that, I'll take my round waist measurement on my half length, and then after marking that, I'll take 1 inch for that and then 1 inch for sewing allowance. So after connecting the body measurement, I added 1 inch for my sewing allowance on the bust area and also on the waist area, and then I connected them together again. So basically, this is how you draft your normal basic bodice when you want to make a dress. So having done that now, I'll be marking the keyhole neckline shape. So from my shoulder, I decided to measure down 8 inches. So just measure how deep you want the keyhole neckline to be. So sorry, I measured 7.5 because I wanted it to be 8 inches after I finished sewing. So on that 7.5 mark, I came in by 0.5 inch. And then on my neck depth, I went down by 0.5 inch as well. I don't want the keyhole neckline to get to the very top. So you're first of all going to measure the depth and then going by half an inch. Then from your normal round neck, you go down by 0.5 inch again. Then you're just going to connect to form your curve. So I made this video some time ago, I think about early this year or so, but the video didn't come out well. Like there were some issues with the video, it just wasn't sounding well. So I decided to make the video again. So if you've seen this video before and you made a request for me to do it again, so just let me know in the comment section so I'll know that you're following the channel. Now on the half length, I decided to mark my dart allowance. So I divided my round waist, what I have on my round waist, into 2 to mark my darts. Then normally the dart is going to be stopping at your underbust point. So for my shoulder, I measure down my underbust of 13.5. So you can see that I rule a straight line on that point. Then I'm just going to rule a straight line from the dart point on the half length to the underbust like so. So then you're going to mark 0.5 inch on both sides of the line and then connect the both sides to the underbust like so. So this is how your dart is going to be for the front part, and I'm not going to be cutting it out. I'm just illustrating it, so you do the same thing when you're drafting on your fabric. Just mark the dart and sew. So the next thing I'm going to do now, because I don't want to cut the back separately, so I'll be using the same pattern for the back, and I'll be adding my zipper allowance. So for the back neck depth, I'm going to make the back neck depth to be 1.5 inches. and then I'll connect that to my neck wideness like so. So since I'm cutting out the back neckline first, I'll cut the shape of the back and then place on my fabric and add my zipper allowance and also remove my zipper bulge. So after cutting the pattern, I placed it on my main fabric on fold, and then I added half an inch sewing allowance on all the sides except for the side part. Then for the zipper allowance, I measured 2 inches for my zipper allowance. Then going down to the half length area, I measured 1.5. Then the extra 5 that is supposed to complete it, I put it on the side part like this so that it's going to remove excess zipper bulge. So having done that now, I will take out my pattern and finish up with the front part. So you're going to cut the front neckline shape like this and also the keyhole neckline. Now, if you don't want your keyhole neckline to be wide, you can reduce the spacing. Instead of using that half an inch, you can reduce the spacing. So after cutting, note that your front pattern is going to be on fold, not like the back that is shed. The front part is going to be on fold, and then also the neckline part is also going to be on fold. So guys, right here I've gone ahead to cut out my front pattern, and you can see what I mean by it's going to be on fold, also the neck part. And then I added half an inch sewing allowance on the neck area, the shoulder, the armhole, the half length aside for the side part. Then after doing that, I also cut my facing the same way as the main fabric, although it is shorter than the main fabric. So guys, you can see how the facing looks. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to cut out the skirt part. The back is not going to have a facing. The back will be biased. I'll use a bias for the back, although you can use facing if you choose to. So guys, for the skirt part, you're going to measure your waist to hip measurement, and in this case it is 9 inches, so I will rule a straight line on that point. And then after doing that, I'll measure 5 inches down from my hip length, which is going to be for my basque. So next, I will take my round waist measurement and divide it by 4 and mark on the waistline. Then I'll add 1 inch for that allowance and then 1 inch for sewing allowance. Then on the hip line, you're going to mark quarter of your hip measurement as well and then 1 inch for sewing allowance. Then after doing that, you're going to connect from your waistline down to your hip line using your curved ruler like so. So guys, after doing that, I will be connecting from my hip measurement to that 5 inches, which is going to be my basque shape. Then you're not going to be connecting from your sewing allowance. You connect from your actual hip measurement, and then this is how it's going to be. So note that when you're cutting on your fabric, the front part is going to be on fold, and then for the back part you had 2 inch for sewing for zipper allowance, sorry. So you're going to get the midpoint of your waist measurement, and then you're going to measure down 4 inches, which is going to be the dart length. Then after marking the 4 inches, you're going to rule a straight line to connect the both points together from your waist. So having done that now, I'll measure 0.5 inch on both sides, and then you're going to slant it to your dart length like this. So this is how it's going to be when you want to sew your dart on your main fabric. I will not be cutting it out like this. I will just be cutting my pattern just as you see me doing. So guys, I've gone ahead to cut my pattern on my main fabric. I have my front part on fold, and then I added 2 inches for my zipper allowance. Then before taking out my patterns, I'll first of all notch the dart points. So guys, before we start sewing, I'll first of all be cutting the sleeve. So for the sleeve pattern, I will rule a straight line on the top of the pattern to make the line straight, and then on this other side I'll also rule a straight line. So this is just to make the pattern straight, okay? If you have a straight pattern, then you don't need to do all of this. So guys, the vertical lines is the top of the sleeve, and then the horizontal line is going to be the sleeve length. So, and it is also going to be on fold when you're cutting on your fabric. So first of all, I measured 8 inches for the sleeve length from my starting line, and then I added 1.5 inch for sewing allowance and folding allowance. So guys, after connecting all the lines, the next thing I went ahead to do was to measure my cap height. To get your actual cap height, you're going to use this calculation. Divide your bust measurement by 12, and whatever you have is going to be your cap height. So from the starting line, I came down by 3 inches because that was what I got after doing the calculation. Then I rule a straight line. So the lines are very much, so I want to label them so we can know what we're working with. So I labeled them starting line, cap height, sleeve length, and the other one is sleeve length allowance. So after doing that now, I'll go in by 2 inches on my starting line, and then on the cap height you're going to take your round armhole divided by 2, or you can either measure your round sleeve on your dress. You can measure the round sleeve on your dress and divide it by 2 as well. If you're measuring that, measure on your actual body measurement and not your sewing allowance. So whatever you have, divide it by 2 like so, and then mark a point. And then you can see the way I'm just drawing a sketch from that point to the 2 inch on the top of the sleeve like this. Or you can just use your curved ruler and place it just the way you see me doing, like so. So the next thing I'm going to do is measure the roundness of the bottom sleeve, and you're also going to divide it by 2 and mark on the sleeve length. So after marking that, I'll add 1 inch for sewing allowance, and then whatever I have there, I'll also measure it on the sewing allowance and connect it straight down. And then I'll also slant and connect to my cap height like this. So this is how you're going to cut your sleeve. So after doing that, now you can cut out your sleeve pattern and place on your fabric that is on fold to cut out your sleeve. So I'm just measuring everything to make sure that they're accurate before cutting it out. So guys, this is everything we're working with. We have our front and back pattern for the upper part, and then for the skirt part, and then the sleeve. So the next thing we'll be working with is the half length area. So first of all, I took out my patterns, and then I'll be showing you how to join the darts and also finish up the front part. So first of all, I'll be sewing the dart. I've gone ahead to notch my dart like this. I'll just fold it together and then sew the dart. Now for the back length, that it's going to be longer than the front. So what I normally do is measure what I have from my arm cycle length to my half length, and then I come down by 1 inch. So guys, you can do whatever you like for your dart length. There is no standard way of fixing a dart. So what I will just do is take it over to my sewing machine and then sew with half an inch and slant to my dart length. So I'll be doing this for both sides of the back, and then after doing that, now I'll come back to show you what next. So for the front part, I'll also be fixing the dart. I've gone ahead to notch the dart points. Then I'll use my pattern as an illustration. So the dart I have there is 3.5 plus the half inch allowance on the bottom, so it's going to be 4 inches. So I'll just go ahead to measure 4 inches length on my fabric and then sew my darts. So yes, after sewing the dart, I went ahead to iron it to make it relax, so you can actually see the dart because of the color of the fabric. So this is what we have it looking like. So I'll keep the back part aside and let's work on the front. So for the front part, I have my facing that I've ironed interfacing on, and I'm going to place it front side facing front side like so. I will make sure that the keyhole part is aligned together. Then I'll use my pins to secure it. So guys, after pinning the keyhole shape like this, I will be sewing with a tiny allowance because the keyhole neckline is already wide enough like this. So like I said, if you don't want it to be too wide, then you can just cut a little bit and then sew a little bit so it doesn't appear too wide, except that is what you want. So guys, after marking the circle, what I will do is take it over to my sewing machine and stitch on the shape and then notch around the circle. So after notching it like this, I will turn it over to the good side. You can see the way I turn it to the good side, and then I will take it over to iron and press to make it relax. So to make it easier to relax very well, you can make use of an hemming gum. You can place an hemming gum on the inside to iron it well. So after ironing, this is what I have it looking like. I added hemming gum on the inside to make it relaxed. And then for the neck part, I'll be using a bias to bias the neck part of the front and also on the back. So if you don't have a bias, here is an arc that you can use to bias your neckline very neatly. So I'm making use of the fabric. I have 1.5-inch wideness, and then you're going to iron it on fold like this. So you're going to place one side of your strip on the neckline, make sure that it is relaxed, and then as you're sewing, you're going to be arranging it. You're going to sew with half an inch till you get to the end. So guys, after sewing and then I cut out the excess, the next thing I'm going to do is trim off the excess allowance on the neckline. So after trimming the inside, what you're going to do next is fold the bias fabric to the wrong side, and then you're just going to use your pin to hold it. So just continue folding till you get to the end. And then after doing that, I'll take it over to my sewing machine to top stitch the folded parts. So I'll also be doing the same thing for the back neckline for both sides of the back. So guys, this is what we have after biasing the neckline. This is how neat it looks. So I'll keep it aside and let's work on the down part. So for the skirt part, I'll take out my pattern and then fix my darts for both the front part and the back. So before taking out your pattern, just notch the dart area so it can be easy for you to sew your darts. So you're just going to fold the notch point, make sure it is equal, and then measure the length of your darts. On the pattern paper, I have the length of the dart as 4 inches, but because of the half-inch allowance on the top, is going to be 4.5. So I'll take it to my sewing machine and stitch the darts. So after stitching the darts, I iron it properly to make it relax. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to bring back the front part of the half length. So guys, I will be joining the half length to the skirt part with 0.5 inch allowance, and when you're joining, make sure that the darts that you have on the half length and the darts on the skirt part, they both meet to make your work neat and professional. So guys, for the back part, you're also going to align the zipper allowance to the skirt part like this. Now, before I go ahead to join the back part, first of all, you're also going to align the darts area, just like you see me doing. But before going to do that, I want to first of all cut out excess from the half length area. So I place the both half length like so, and then I will go up by 1 inch from my half length on the zipper area. So just watch the way I'm doing it. Now I'll go up by 1 inch from that point, and then I'm just going to cut and slant it to my dart area like this. So this is going to eliminate any further chance of zipper bulge. So after doing this, now I'll align my darts for the back and then join with 1/2 inch. So next I'll bring the front part and then I'll be joining the shoulder part with 1/2 inch as well. And after joining the shoulder, next I'll be fixing my sleeve. So after joining the shoulders, I went ahead to iron it to make it relaxed. Then for the sleeve part, I've gone ahead to fold the bottom of the sleeve and then I notched the midpoint. So you're going to place the midpoint of your sleeve on the shoulder seam, and then you're just going to align the sides of the sleeve on the roundness of your armhole. So this is what I have it looking like. So I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch on that sleeve area. Then I'll do the same thing for the other side as well. So yes, having joined the sleeve, the next thing I did was to align the side parts together like so. And then I'll start sewing with 1 inch sewing allowance from the sleeve all the way through to the down. So when you're sewing, make sure that all the seam line align together, the seam line of the sleeve, the seam line of the half length, so you can use your pins to hold it down. So guys, after joining the sides of the gown, next I'll be fixing my zipper. So you're going to measure the length of your zipper and where it's going to stop. So from where the zipper is going to stop, I will close that part with 2 inch and then fix my zipper. So if you don't know how to fix a zipper, I have other videos where I showed how to fix a zipper in detail. So I'll be linking those videos under the description box so you can check them out. So the last part of this gown is the gathers, and then I went ahead to measure my shoulder to my hip length. Take note, it is your hip length you're working with, not your basque shape. So my hip length here is 26.5, which is the end of the side part of the gown. Let's just say it is 26 inches because I'll use 1/2 inch to sew the gathers to it. Then you're also going to take note of the length of your gown. Length of my gown is 43 inches plus 2 inch for folding allowance. So that means I need an extra 19 inches for the gathers. So if I minus 45 inches from 26 inches, is going to give me 19. So this is the remaining fabric I have from the 3 yards. So I'm going to cut and join to make it longer, and then I'm going to get the length of 19 inches for it. So to get the wideness, you're going to measure what you have all around. So I went ahead to lose the zipper allowance, the side that I joined before for the back. I loosed it a bit so that I'll be able to measure the roundness of the bottom of the gown. So guys, I hope you understand what I mean. If you don't quite get, just watch and see the way I'm doing it. So next, I'll go ahead to measure from my zipper allowance from one side all the way through to the other end, like so. So guys, after measuring everything around, I had 58 inches. So to cut your gathers, you're going to make the wideness of your gathers to be whatever you have as the roundness multiplied by 3. You can either multiply it by 3 or multiply it by 2.5. And then after getting this, I went ahead to fold the bottom of my gathers fabric, and I've already gone ahead to sew my gather stitch on it. So you're going to get one of the thread from your gather stitch and then draw your gathers fabric. So you're going to do this gently so you don't cut the thread and have to do the work all over again. So after drawing my gathers, I'm going to measure it to be 58 inches wide. And then after doing that, you're going to tie the end of the gather stitch like so. So next, I'll take it over to my sewing machine and sew on top of the gathers fabric so that it can be firm and it will not be losing. So having done that now, I went ahead to notch the midpoint of the gathers fabric like this. I folded into two and notched the midpoint. And then I brought my gown like so. So you're also going to get the midpoint of your gown like this. Now the midpoint is the V shape, as you can see. So after getting the midpoint, you're going to cut it open like so. Just make a notch to make it easier for you to sew your V shape. So next, I place my gathers fabric front side facing front side of the gown, and you're going to place the notch point of the gathers on the notch point of the gown like so. So after placing on the notch point, you're just going to be sewing. As you're sewing, you're arranging your gathers. You're going to sew with half an inch till you get to the end of the zipper allowance, and do the same thing on the other side. So you can actually start sewing from your zipper allowance to the other end. You don't necessarily have to sew from the middle part. So this is it. So guys, after sewing the gathers to the down part of the gown, this is what I have it looking like. Now the last thing I'm going to do now is to close down the zipper allowance area all the way through to the end. And that is all for the making of this gown. If you find this tutorial helpful and you want to try it out, please do well to like, share to your friends, and also subscribe. See you in the next tutorial.